Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's good to see everybody here and to know that there are many others that are watching through the live stream. I hope that you have all weathered the storm as well as could be expected and are enjoying a peaceful Shabbat, hopefully with power. But we need to turn to the study of Torah. And this week we have one of the most fascinating and important parshiyot in the entire Torah. It is the parasha of Vayera. It is the parsha where we have the most famous Akedah, which centers as the center crowning piece of the Torah reading on Rosh Hashanah. But it also has the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. But before any of that, we get to the subject of tonight's discussion. We get Sarah's laugh. Why is Sarah laughing? Well, we have to play out the scene in a little bit more detail. There we have Avraham and Sarah. They have just gone through the ritual of Brit Milah for Ishmael, which means Sarah has once again been reminded that she does not have a child of her own, even if Abraham does, and she is reflecting. And Abraham is recovering, at least according to the Midrashic reading of the text. And here come three strangers, to which Abraham responds with his usual hospitality, Haknasat Orchim. He leaps up, he runs to prepare for them all the finest food that can be available. Sarah as well is involved in this. But Sarah hangs back a little bit. Perhaps she is a little more modest, she is perhaps a little shy, or maybe she's just not quite in the mood for entertaining while still nursing her own discomfort at the lack of her child. But what topic comes up? The topic, of course, of Sarah and children. For these are not just strangers wandering through the middle of the wilderness. These are three melachim, these are angels, and they come with a message. And the message is that Sarah will have a child. Born this time next year, she will have a boy, and that will be the line, as we know, that will continue for the line of Abraham through eventually to the Torah and to us at this day. But when she overhears them thinking, them promising that she will have a child, what does she do? She laughs. She laughs. And she says to herself in her mocking derision of their supposed promise, my husband and I, we're too old. There's no way we can have a child. She laughs out of mockery for their prophecy. She laughs in disbelief. She laughs in scorn. She laughs the laugh of a pessimist. And it's a very particular kind of laugh, because it is a laugh without joy. It is a laugh that is bitter and harsh, because pessimism is a unique form of poison that many of us are too frequently willing to consume. Think for a moment of how pessimism works. Pessimism works because the person who is being pessimistic imagines that they can predict the future. But not only can they predict the future, but they know that the future will be bad. They know it. They know it. No matter how many times their past prophecies have been proven wrong and things turned out better than they expected, no matter how many times things have actually been good, nonetheless, they stubbornly cling to this bitter poison of imagining, well, next time it'll be worse. The fact that it was good today is only setting me up for a bigger disappointment. My pessimism will eventually be fulfilled. Just you wait and see. It's only going to get worse from here. Again and again and again, they prophesy doom, which has a unique property. You see, the problem with being a pessimist is not only that you happen to be wrong. None of us like being wrong. But in addition to being wrong about the future, you are poisoning the past by staring at it through the veil of your paranoia and your fear. A pessimist doesn't only make a prediction for the future, they make an attitude shift for the present. Somebody who is pessimistic, who will laugh at the thought that something good might happen for them, is going to mess up their current situation. Their own bitterness, their own frustration, their own anger, their own pessimism is going to make it harder for them to enjoy the moment that they are in, if it happens to be a nice one. And indeed, in much of what Sarah has is a nice situation. She is married to a wonderful and loving husband, and she is living a life free from want, the occasional trouble with some of the neighbors, but by and large, a much more peaceful, a much more prosperous life than almost anyone else for hundreds of miles away. And yet her pessimism is tainting that. Her pessimism is dragging a laugh out of her of mocking derision at the thought that something good might happen for her. Does she not realize so much good has already happened for her? Which is why we have to turn to the other dynamic duo, to Abraham. When Abraham is told, you will have a child, because he is being told that as well, because he is going to be the father of the child that comes from Sarah, Abraham doesn't laugh. Now, is it any less impossible for Abraham to sire a child than it is for Sarah? Biologically speaking, a little. Just a little. Men tend to have a slightly longer period of fertility than women. But honestly, both of them are well past that period of expected parenting of a child. So really, Abraham has every reason to laugh at the suggestion that he will be a father again, as Sarah does. And yet he doesn't. Why? It's not because he is an optimist. Very important that we understand the word optimist can be used too naively. It is not that he imagines everything will be fine. We have seen his doubts in his conversations with God of what will happen for his legacy, his covenant, for his family. Where will they go? We have seen him wrestle with this with God. He is not so naive as to imagine everything is fine. But what he has noticed is that if God has made a promise, and if he works towards that promise, for example, leaving Haran and coming here, then it will come true. It will eventually be fulfilled. And so Abraham is not just optimistic, he is hopeful, because he knows that with his effort he can make the promise that God is giving him this day come as true as all of the promises God has given him before, the ones that he also fulfilled with his own labor in partnership with Adonai. So Abraham doesn't laugh. And what do we find a year later? They have a child. And what do we name this child? Yitzchak. And what does Yitzchak mean? Laughter. Because here at the very end, when Sarah is holding Yitzchak on her lap and she is raising him and he is old enough to be weaned, a very important milestone in the ancient world for a child to be out of some of the dangerous zone of potential childhood illness, Sarah is laughing again. But this time she is laughing a laugh of joy, a laugh of happiness. This time she finally understands what Abraham has held in his heart up to this point. But truly, if she works together with her husband, if she works together with God, then she can have the dream be fulfilled. That she can laugh a laugh of joy and a laugh of happiness. She is no longer the pessimistic person that she was. She is still a bit of a realist, which is why we get into trouble with Hagar and Ishmael, but that is for another day. But for now, recognize Sarah's transformation through the gift of this child, Yitzchak, as her laughter goes from one of pessimistic scorn to one of hopeful joy. And realize that it was that transformation that made the Jewish people possible. We would not be here if we were still laughing and mocking as we were pessimistic. We are only here because we are hopeful that together we can make God's promises come true.